In this video, let's work on getting XAMPP set up for PHP development. On the Apache Friends website, you can see the link above. I will click to download the Linux installation file. Again, this should automatically match your system settings and select the correct file. And save this and let it finish downloading. Now let me minimize this, open the files application and go to our downloads directory, and you can see the file. Good. Let me close this and open a terminal. Change directories into the downloads folder, and we can use the ls command to list the contents of a folder. In this case, we only have the XAMPP file. Now we need to run this with sudo, and note the // in front since this file is in the same folder. This / is telling us to look into the current folder we are in and run the XAMPP installer file. I will input my password and command not found. And this is because of how files work in Linux. If you download something from the internet, it is not automatically executable. The system will not run the file unless you give it permission to run. And we can do that with chmod plus x. Chmod stands for change file mod, and you can set the attributes of a file with this, whether it's read-only or not, executable or not, and so on. Plus x in this case is adding, note the plus sign, the x option, x standing for execute, so we are in effect giving permissions to a file to be executed to run. And we need to select the file, so XAMPP, and you can press the tab key and it will automatically try to guess the file based on what you type. In this case, we only have one file in the folder, so it's easy to assume we want the XAMPP x64 installer. Press enter, the command was executed, and you can use the up key on your keyboard to see the previous executed commands. So up 2 times and we get the sudo command tried earlier. Press enter. Notice it did not ask for a password again since it stored a password for this terminal session, so we do not need to enter it again, and the installer is being executed. So just click next, next, and here we can see that the installation folder will be /opt/lamp. Click next. In case you are familiar with the Bitnami installers for Drupal, WordPress and so on, you can leave this checked. I will however uncheck it. Next, and next again. And done. I do not want XAMPP to run because we still have some work to do, so I will uncheck this and click finish. Now if we go into our files, by default we are in the home folder, but we want to go to the opt directory where XAMPP was installed. So we can go to our computer, and this is the root of our Linux system. Go to opt and lamp, and we have our files. You will notice the htdocs folder where maybe you are used to working in Windows, but if I right click, notice the new folder and new document options are not available. Because we are in the root file system, we do not have permissions to modify any of this. That's why we ran the installer with sudo, so it could have access to install in the opt directory. So what I want to do is set up another folder like htdocs to work in, so we do not have to mess around with permissions and so on. First, back in the terminal, I will run with sudo opt lamp, and what this means is that I am accessing the lamp executable file inside the opt lamp directory, and passing stop to stop the services entirely. So we get confirmation that Apache was stopped, MySQL and ProFTPD were not running. Okay. Clear the screen. Back in our home folder, inside code, we have the Rails test project. So let's create a new folder called maybe PHP projects. And we will make this accessible by Apache so we can have our PHP code here. In order to set this up, back in the terminal, again with sudo, open gedit, and gedit is the default text editor we have in Ubuntu, and pass in the file we want to open, in this case the etc hosts file. In the first line next to localhost, I will press tab once and add php.dev. The hosts file maps IP addresses, in this case 127.0.0.1 being our local IP address, to host names, meaning devices connected to a network. So here php.dev and localhost both map to 127.0.0.1, and I'm doing this just to have a nicer looking address in our browser. Save and close this. Clear screen, and we want to edit the Apache configuration file next. So sudo gedit opt lamp etc httpd.conf. So we are editing the httpd.conf file in the opt lamp etc directory. As you can see, this is the main Apache HTTP server configuration file. Press Ctrl F to activate the find functionality, or scroll down to where you see virtual hosts. When using virtual hosts, you are basically referring to running more than one website on a single computer. So you would have website 1 and website 2 both running on server 1, for example, and you would have two virtual hosts. Notice by default it does point to a file for configuring virtual hosts, but it is commented out. The file is not being included, so let's just remove the number sign and save and exit. So let's open now the virtual hosts file, press up for the previous command, and the file is in etc extra httpd vhosts.conf. We have some comments first, and down you can see a couple of examples on how to set this up. I will remove the first example, and for the second example, let's see. The virtual host will be php.dev, the one we set in our hosts file earlier. The server admin, I'll just leave this default. The document root, this needs to be the folder we created earlier. So back in the terminal, I will right click and open a new terminal. Notice we are in the downloads folder, so cd into the tilde, and the tilde character is the home directory, so we are starting from the home directory into our code folder, PHP projects, and we can use the print working directory command to get the location we are in. So copy this, exit out of here, and replace in our document root. Server name will be php.dev again, and the errors and custom log I will just leave as is. One last thing we need to do is give Apache access to this folder, so open a directory directive and specify our projects folder, note the quotation marks, and close the directive. Inside we have require all granted so it can access the files. Save and exit, clear the terminal. Now let's start the server. Sudo opt lamp and pass the start option. Okay. Back in the folder, I will create a new empty document, index.php, and just write some basic PHP code here. And if we check php.dev, it works. Just to double check, I will create a new folder, test, copy and paste the file inside, and modify the contents to make sure we are getting it. And if we go to php.dev/test, we are getting the file. Nice. If you are familiar with XAMPP, probably you are used to working with phpMyAdmin, which you can access from localhost/phpMyAdmin. And that's it basically. I will see you in the next video.